Hey, toy fans. I did a recent video on kind of the origins and some inside look into the G.I. Joe Classified series. And part of my goal for this video was to explain to fans why this line is so hard to find at retail. And obviously, based on the comments that I've gotten from the first video, I definitely did not do a good job explaining this. Whatever the point I was trying to make was clearly not accurate and did not give a good representation. So let's see if we can address that. So the first reason is because the line was tied into the Snake Eyes movie, which was delayed for, obvious reasons. And the second reason is because of a planogram. So let's go into this. All toys at retail, all product at retail is merged as what's called a planogram, meaning it's organized, it's easy to shop, and it's easy to stock. This even starts one level up where things like big box stores are divided up into sections, divided up into, areas. You know where to go to buy produce. And likewise, every section, like the toy section, has a planogram where less expensive items are on top, mid-price in the middle, and the sort of Christmas tree birthday presents on the bottom, like the play sets, etc. And this is done both to help customers shop the aisle to find the item they want and to help people who are stocking the aisle. And it also helps to understand how many sales are happening, what's also called the how much money or the volume, the velocity of a line is. How that, if you will, if it earns what the money it should in order to get the space. So let's look at G.I. Joe Classified. It has 3 pegs right now at Target, those 3 in the middle. One of them which has a Power Rangers figure hanging on it as of this morning. This is my local Target that I went to go snap these pictures. So that means it has a grand total of 6 feet of space. I'm sorry, not 6 feet, 6 inches. It doesn't even have 1 foot. It is essentially one skew, a 6-inch figure, with 3 pegs vertical, going from top down. So if you look at the actual individual pegs, 2 of them are for specific figures only. So this peg is for Firefly, which means by the book, if you're going to go as Spock says, only Firefly should be hanging on this peg. The second peg is also just for one figure. This one, I believe, says Cobra Trooper. Oh gosh, I have to zoom in, but it's like a Cobra Trooper, I think. Either way, it's also a single skew that is supposed to be on this peg. At the moment, there is a Power Ranger figure hanging on this peg because that's kind of what happens with aisles, especially this time of year, and when things are missing, other things get on their pegs. And then finally, the top peg is G.I. Joe Classified Assortment, which means there's 1 peg for all the rest of the figures that just come in an assortment. And all of this, while you have 3 pegs, it only equals 6 inches of space, which is literally the smallest amount you can have in the toy aisle because, you're not going to have under 6 inches. Most toy lines have much more, especially movie lines. Movie lines will have anywhere from 3 to 8 feet of product, not inches, meaning it could take up almost half the aisle, not counting end caps and incremental displays throughout the store. So looking at a line I brand managed when I was at Mattel for a movie was Green Lantern. And the same thing, you could see there's a planogram. There's basic figures, there's deluxe figures, there's role play. It's very well organized. And if my memory serves, we had, I think, 4 feet of space. So that included items on the middle shelf, deluxe figures, items on the bottom shelf, etc., etc. Now, because I'm also a toy collector, when I was brand managing Green Lantern, I wanted to do a collector figure line that was adjunctive, meaning the Green Lantern Classics, where we would do comic-style figures that would be part of the Green Lantern movie planogram. It would hang next to it. So this 6-inch section was part of the overall 3 feet that we had. So you had 2.5 feet for movie and a half a foot for collector. Looking at G.I. Joe, it was basically the same strategy. The Signature Series figures, which were a half a foot, 6 inches of what would have been a larger planogram, was meant to be part of the Snake Eyes movie statement, which would have been, let's say 3 to 4 feet of product. So you would have 2.5 feet of Snake Eyes movie product and a half a foot of classic product. So classified was going to be part of an overall much larger retail statement. And when Snake Eyes, the movie, got pushed out because of coronavirus, well, it was basically stop everything. We don't want to get into another issue where we ship G.I. Joe product a year before the movie happens, like what happened with the second G.I. Joe movie, when that movie got pushed out. In that case, not for corona, but for other reasons. So any product that was movie styled, and I know I'm using comic style or classic style pops as an example because I don't have movie images to show, was basically pushed out. But classified, here's the issue, it had already been revealed to fans, and in fact there had been 2 skews sold to fans through conventions and Hasbro Pulse, and there'd been a lot of excitement generated on G.I. Joe websites. So, if you will, the horse had already left the barn, and the whole idea of closing the barn doors after the horse has already left, or the cow has left. In other words, keep the momentum going. Classified, because it was intended to be at retail as part of Snake Eyes, but had already been revealed, so the collector momentum was out there. So the decision was made, well, even though the Snake Eyes movie isn't happening, since Classified is not tied to the movie, it was just going to ride on the movie's coattails as far as placement at retail by being part of the planogram. Let's push it out anyway, and we'll just get 6 inches at retail. And that's kind of where the problem is and why it's hard to find. When a line only has 6 inches in the toy aisle and not 6 feet or 3 feet or 4 feet like a standard movie does, well, it's called an orphan skew because it gets lost and it doesn't have a family. Skews need to live together at retail to make them easy to shop and easy to stock. And that's kind of one of the key issues. So when you think about a stock room at a big box store, and I'm not picking on Target here, I'm just using examples because Classified is at Target right now, well, it's a lot more like this and a lot less like that previous picture. Stock rooms can get overwhelmed with returns, with items that have on street dates that aren't supposed to go out. And when product is finally put on a pulley to bring out to the aisle, and your stock boy, girl, man, woman, person, whatever, gender-specific term. I'm trying to be politically correct here. It used to be called a stock boy, obviously, back in the day. They'll bring product out, and they will place it on the planogram. And the planogram, while it's there to help shoppers, it's also there to help the stock person. There we go. That's a politically correct term, stock person. I'll use that. So they'll see a box of new toys they have to put out, and they will look visually for where it should hang. The problem is if you have an orphan skew that is not part of a planogram and only has 6 inches of space, the stock person could be like, I have no idea where this goes. I know that sounds really simplistic, but when you're part of a much bigger line tied to a movie, you get way more attention, and it is physically easier to see where that item should go in the aisle. If you're not, and you're all by yourself, the stock person could just give up and say, all right, I'm not dealing with this skew right now. I can't figure out where it goes. That's just part and one sliver of it. But the bottom line is, without a planogram, that is why G.I. Joe Classified is hard to find. It was meant to be part of the planogram for Snake Eyes. When all the movie got pushed out and it became an orphan, well, now you know why it's hard to find. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, I hope I clarified everything. Please give it a like and a subscription because that tells YouTube to share it with more people. And the whole idea of this channel is to share toy news. Thanks so much.